What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. All right, guys, so today we're going to talk about soft cheating and other forms of cheating and how we can prevent them, because I feel like what people would deem as soft cheating happens a lot more than people would actually think. And soft cheating, it's something that it's usually not as blatant, or in a lot of cases not even as egregious as your more common forms of cheating, simply drawing extra cards or stacking your deck or your opponent's deck so that you draw favorably or that they draw unfavorably. And the thing about soft cheating is sometimes it's done unintentionally, so that's why I say it's not even as egregious. But that is neither here or there. You still want to prevent it if possible from happening. And when you're in the span of like a regional where you're playing maybe 8, 9, 7 rounds, I mean, you don't want to lose a game because of something, especially if it was incidental. All right, so I'll give you some common occurrences of cheating, soft cheating, and the ways that we can make sure, that they don't happen to you so that you know what to look for. I'll give you a prime example, and this one is really relevant to this format right now because it has to do with Mermills and Atlanteans. Genix Undyne versus Skill Drain. Now, every player watching this video should already know that Skill Drain does not and will not ever stop calls from being paid via monster effects. So what does that mean? That means that if Skill Drain is already face up on the field active, you can still summon your Genix Undyne and you can send any water monster you want to the graveyard as a cost. And you can send your marksmen or your dragoons, and you can still resolve those guys' effects when they hit the graveyard. However, Genix Undyne's effect will be negated, so you can't add a Genix controller to your hand. Why is that relevant, Capital G? It's relevant because if the player who summons Genix Undyne does not have a copy of controller in their deck, they cannot activate the effect. So let's just say that your opponent happened to draw both of their controllers, or maybe you use card destruction on them turn 1 and you have Skill Drain up and you're playing Dark World. They can't, if they summon a Genix controller, if they summon a Genix Undyne, they actually have to have a controller in their deck to activate the effect. And commonly, people will do this and have no idea that what they're doing is illegal. So what you can simply do is, you can simply call a judge over and ask the judge to verify that they have a copy of controller in their deck. And if they don't, then that Genix Undyne just sits on the field and he gets no effect. Another common occurrence, and you have to be careful when you're playing against Infernity. This is not soft cheating, this is just flat out cheating. Players will often set monsters in their back row and use those, or they will kind of facade them as spells or traps. Let's say that your opponent has 2 cards in their hand and maybe they contemplate, then they set one, and then they, summon a Mirage, or they remove Street Patrol and summon the Archfiend, and then they proceed to just go off and OTK you. There's nothing in the rules that says that you can't simply ask a judge to verify that all the cards in their back row are actually spell or traps, because you will have players who set monsters in their back row so that they can go off and beat the crap out of you. Or let's say that your opponent happens to be going off and you have no way of stopping them, but you decide, all right, I'm just going to blind MST them. And you MST one of their cards, and then they just instantly scoop. Doesn't that seem a little strange? Again, you can call a judge over and simply verify, because again, that player may be trying to intentionally cheat you. The last thing I want to talk about is when players try to activate monster effects they know damn well they can't resolve. And this can be the trickiest of the sort to actually identify when it happens. Let's say you have 1 back row, maybe 2 back row, and you're playing against an X-Saber player, and they go, summon X-Saber Bogart Knight. And they say, I'm going to activate the effect. Do you have a response? And you say no. And then they immediately say, never mind, I'm not activating the effect. You might not think anything of that. That's soft cheating right there. And the reason that that's soft cheating is, they may not have another X-Saber monster in their hand that they can special summon at the time, meaning they knew damn well they couldn't activate that effect. They can't actually resolve it. And the reason that that's soft cheating is because of the intent. Your intent probably was, especially if you're a good player, to see maybe if you could burn an effect veiler, maybe if you can get a Fiendish Chain, or you can get me to use a solemn warning on that card, by saying that you're going to activate an effect, but you knew that you couldn't actually resolve it. This happens a lot of times with very, very experienced Inzektor players. You know what I mean? They'll summon a Dragonfly and activate the effect, and they're really just trying to see if maybe they can get a Book of Moon out of you, or if they can get a Fiendish Chain or a Veiler. But often they might not even have another monster that they can equip to it. So if you feel like something shady is going on, simply call a judge over and ask the judge if they can verify that they have that card as a target. You know what I mean? It's not giving away information, because at the time that that player attempted to activate that effect, they knew that to be able to activate it, they had to resolve it, meaning that they have to at least have that monster in their hand, which means it's public knowledge. So you can call a judge over and say, you know, judge, I just want to verify that my opponent had that card in their hand to verify it because they attempted to use that effect. So, you know, these are just things to watch out for. They're very, very tricky, and I just hope that, you know, you guys don't end up getting cheated by one of these, especially if you're at like a regional or something in the later rounds. But, you know, you've got people of very low morales, and they're going to try and do that stuff. So just keep your eyes open and make sure you look out for that stuff. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll talk to you later. Oh, and because of measures out of my control that require me to take trips to Atlanta, Orlando, Nashville, and Baltimore, I'm bringing back the whole click and ad campaign. Yeah, those are not for leisure. They're strictly for business. Job interviews, guys. So click an ad, and thank you very much.